Good morning. I am A.Kasiviswanathan, Assistant Professor. Today we are going to discuss about aircraft inspection. It's a very interesting topic, which is very useful for all maintenance as well as aeronautical engineering basic students. Okay, let us go to the topic. So first of all, you have to know about inspection. So what is an inspection? Basically, these inspections are visual examinations and manual checks in order to determine the condition of an aircraft or component. That's what it is termed as inspection. In general term, it is termed as inspection. Whereas it is applicable to aircraft and aircraft maintenance component, so we can denote it as aircraft inspection, right? So basically inspections are visual examinations and various manual checks to determine the condition of an aircraft or component, right? Okay, then what is the inspection system comprises? Basically, an inspection system consists of several processes. It contains various processes including the reports which will be made by the mechanics or the pilot or crew flying an aircraft and regularly scheduled inspections of aircraft. So these are all the system which basically consisted, right? Then this type of inspection system is designed in such a way in order to maintain an aircraft in the best condition. So the ultimate aim is to maintain the aircraft in a good condition, which is in a running condition or as well as best condition, whatever the term it may be. So the inspection system is designed in such a way, right? So to maintain an aircraft in the best condition. So that is what the inspection system is very, very essential in each and every aspect of maintenance. Then operating failures and malfunctions of equipments are reduced if excessive wear or minor defects are detected and corrected in early stages. So suppose you have identified the problem, we have to diagnose it. So in that case, the inspection system will be very, very helpful for each and every aspect of it. And another one, airframe and engine inspections may range from pre-flight inspections to the detailed inspections level. The time interval is a very, very important for inspection period, vary with the various models of aircraft involved and the type of operations you are going to conduct as well as already conducted. The time interval is very, very important point while considering this inspection category. The airframe and engine manufacturer's instructions should be consulted when establishing the inspection intervals. While fixing the intervals, we have to correlate with the airframe as well as engine manufacturer's instruction manuals. Similarly, the aircraft operating under the flight hour system are periodically inspected when a specified number of flight hours are accumulated. For example, if aircraft runs a minimum of some hours within the prescribed ranges, then definitely the particular aircraft has to undergo the inspection process. The components with the stated hourly operating limitations are normally replaced during the inspection periods that falls nearest the hourly limitation level. So each and everything should be calculated into account before doing an inspection process of an aircraft. Right. Now let us discuss about the inspection techniques. What are all the inspection techniques required for an inspection of an aircraft? So these points quoted here are some of the basic inspection techniques, right? So basic inspection techniques. So what are all the basic inspections in general? Before starting an inspection process, we have to ensure all the plates, access doors, fairings and cowling have been opened or removed and the structure will be cleaned. So this is the first and foremost point for basic inspection process or inspection techniques. Before starting an inspection, we have to ensure all these ported things have been opened or removed depending upon the requirements, and the structure should be cleaned, right? Okay. In order to conduct the inspection, a great deal of paperwork as well as reference information must be thoroughly assessed and studied. So this is the major thing. We have to thorough with the manuals. Whatever the manuals, inspection manuals, repair as well as overhauling manuals, different types of manuals are available for depending upon the requirements, what type of inspections to be carried out. That particular manual should be referred as well as thoroughly discussed and studied before actually proceeding to the aircraft in order to conduct the inspection. Then, aircraft logbooks must be reviewed. Logbooks, we will discuss what are the logbooks information contains. Then, checklist must be utilized to ensure that no items will be forgotten or overlooked during the inspection period. So, we have to thoroughly concentrate on checklists as well as aircraft logbooks during the inspection time. Okay, let us discuss about aircraft logs. What is an aircraft log? Log, which means an information booklet or some other information in general term. So, aircraft log is an inclusive term which applies to the aircraft logbook. Logbook in the sense basic information and some other details relating to that particular aircraft to be inspected, and all these things should be incorporated into the aircraft log. An inclusive term which applies to the aircraft logbook and all supplemental record concerned with the particular type of aircraft to be inspected. So this is the general definition for aircraft logs. Then information gathered in this log is used to determine the aircraft condition, date of inspection, and time on airframe, engines as well as propellers. So these are all the accessories. What are the things to be inspected during the inspection? So these are all the information gathered in this log, which is used to determine the aircraft condition. Then only we can easily inspect the particular aircraft. So aircraft condition, date of inspection, time on airframe, engine as well as propellers, all etc. All these things should be calculated into account. Hope you understand this. Then another one important thing is the checklist. So what is a checklist? Things to be incorporated for inspection. So this is called checklist. So checklist contains useful information required for the particular type of inspection of the aircraft, right? So checklist contains several bulleted points. So these are all the useful points to be noted into account for inspection. So always use a checklist when performing an inspection. So whatever type of inspection required, you have to definitely refer the checklist. Without checklist, we cannot inspect any type of aircraft. Each and every aircraft to be inspected is required with a proper checklist which will be approved by the Federal Aviation Administration and the concerned aircraft maintenance manual. The checklist should include the following terms. So what are the following terms? In general, the checklist contains fuselage as well as hull group. Then cabin as well as cockpit group. Engine as well as nacelle group, landing gear group, wing and center section. Once again I am quoting fuselage, and these are all the main terms: fuselage and hull group, cabin and cockpit group, engine and nacelle group, landing gear group, wing and center section. Empennage group, propeller group, communication and navigation group, and other miscellaneous things. These are all the checklists to be definitely noted while inspecting an aircraft. And another one thing is publication. So publication, what is a publication? In general, publication means sources of information. Whatever the information to be passed, we can display it in the any other notice board or any other circular terms likewise. So publication in general relating to aircraft term, the sources of information for guiding aviation mechanics in the operation and maintenance of an aircraft as well as and other aircraft related equipment. So this is termed as publication. So what includes publication? So what are all the things are there in the publication? So we will discuss here. These include manufacturers' service bulletins, that is highlighted information required, and manuals for reference, and catalogs, what are the useful things to be needed for the aircraft inspection. Then FAA regulations. FAA, as you people already know, Federal Aviation Administration Department concerned regulations. Then AD, airworthiness directives. Then AC, advisory circulars. And aircraft engine as well as propeller specification. So these are all the most commonly used information published in the publications, right? The next case is manufacturer service bulletins. So what is the purpose for issuing the publication? The purpose for issuing the publication in the sense in order to pass the information or in order to depict the information to everyone who are going to inspect a particular type of aircraft from lower level to the higher level. So purpose for issuing the publications. Name of the applicable airframe, engine or component. Detailed instruction for service. What are all the instructions to be followed during this service? Then adjustments, various adjustments. Similarly, modification or inspection and sources of parts if required. So these are all the detailed instruction which contains in the service bulletins. And another one important thing is the estimated number of man hours required to accomplish the job. In order to finalize the finishing the job, what is the estimated number of man hours required? So these are all the highlighted and useful things to be noted during the aircraft inspection. And another one concept is the CFR. CFR, in the sense, abbreviation term, does Code of Federal Regulations. The CFRs were established by law to provide for the safe and orderly conduct of flight operations and to prescribe airman privileges as well as limitations. So in order to achieve a safe and proper conduction of flight operations during the operational services, we have to follow the Code of Federal Regulations, which is simply termed as CFRs, Code of Federal Regulations. Then, the acknowledge of CFR is very, very necessary during the performance of maintenance, since all work done on the aircraft must comply with CFR provisions. So, what are all the major as well as minor work or inspectional work carried out? These should be definitely correlated with the CFR provision, or otherwise it will be termed as invalid. So CFR, Code of Federal Regulation, is also a very, very important part of aircraft inspection techniques. Another one, AD, Airworthiness Directives. This is the important concept for inspection process. So why we are going for airworthiness directives? So what is airworthiness directives? These are the questions which will come from our mind. So the main purpose or the primary function of the FAA is to require correction of the unsafe condition which is found in an aircraft or aircraft engine, propeller or any other appliances when such conditions exist and are likely to exist. So note down the difference. When such condition exists and are likely to exist, probably in future this may arise or develop in other products of the same design. So the main purpose of the airworthiness directives is the same. The primary function of FAA, in simple terms, to require correction of unsafe condition found in an aircraft or any other aircraft components. So, Title 14 of CFR in Part 39. These are all the highlighted part for airworthiness directives. It defines the authority and responsibility of the administrator for requiring the necessary corrective action to be taken. These AD, that is airworthiness directives, may be broadly divided into two categories. So, we can discuss what are the two categories to be given. First one, those of an emergency nature. During the emergency nature condition require immediate compliance upon receipt. Suppose if you are inspecting an aircraft, that particular aircraft needs some immediate emergency requirement condition, so the preference will be given to that particular aircraft. So this is based upon the prescribed airworthiness directives, those of an emergency nature, requiring immediate compliance based upon the receipt of the compliance. Similarly, another one category is those of less urgent nature. It is mandatory, but anyway, the urgency is somewhat less, requiring compliance within a relatively longer period of time. It can take some more period of time for inspection. Okay, next, manuals. Basically, we all know about manual. What is a manual? Manual is the information description, right? Which will contain useful information as well as description of a particular product or any other component or any other consumables, any other things. So manuals can be classified into the following categories: overhaul manual, structural and repair manual. So the brief description given here about the overall manual as well as detailed step-by-step instructions covering what normally performed on a unit that has been removed from the aircraft. What are all the things which you have removed that should be incorporated with the overall manual for reference. Similarly, structural and repair manual. This contains the manufacturer information as well as instructions basically for repairing the primary as well as secondary structures. So for that purpose, we are using or we are referring structural and repair manual. Then another one, typical skin, ribs, frames and stringer repairs are covered in this manual. So in simple words, we can denote as what are all the primary as well as secondary structures covering information. All these manuals, all these informations are covering in this structural as well as repair manual. Then another one concept is illustrated parts catalog. So what is an illustrated parts catalog, IPC? This catalog represents components, breakdowns of structures as well as equipments in disassembly sequence. Also included are exploded views or cutaway illustrations for all parts as well as equipment manufactured by the aircraft manufacturer. So these are all the foremost things to be remembered for illustrated parts catalog. Component breakdown of various structures and equipments in the disassembly sequence. Suppose we have disassembled the particular components or any other parts, we have to categorize them. So for what purpose these parts can be disassembled and what are the requirements necessary in order to reassemble the parts. Also included are exploded views, open view sections or similar cutaway illustration sections for all parts as well as equipment which will be manufactured by the aircraft manufacturers. So let us come to TCDs. TCD is another one very much important, interesting concept. Type certificate data sheets. So what is a type certificate data sheet? Type certificate data sheets or TCDs describes the type, design and set forth the limitations which will be prescribed by the applicable CFR part. So you can see all these things are correlated with one another. So TCD as well as aerogenous directives, then publications. So these are all some references which will be quoted with Code of Federation, Federal Regulations concept, right? So TCDs are usually numbered in the upper right hand corner of each page. So suppose if you have visited any other sample TCD certificate, you can easily view this TCDs part number. So this number is usually same as the type certificate number. So in simple term, both TCD page number as well as certificate number are usually same. So what are the TCDs in general contains? So the data sheet contains information regarding the various information. First one, model designation of all engines for which the aircraft manufacturer obtained in the approval for use with the particular model type of aircraft. Then another one, minimum fuel grade to be used for the particular aircraft. Maximum continuous as well as takeoff ratings of the approved engine system. Then name of the manufacturer, airspeed limits, then CG, center of gravity range for the extreme loading conditions of the aircraft is given, basically is given in inches from the datum. Then location of the datum, all pertinent maximum weights, oil and fuel capacity, then control surface movements. So these are all the procedures for type certification. First one, initial stage is application. Then that application will pass on to the preliminary type certificate board. Then the certification program plan will be implemented. Then based on that, what are the conditions they are going to implement, then equivalent safety, then basis of certification, then issuing of documents, then entering TC boards if needed. Then again pre-flight TC board, then draft type inspection authorization, similarly TC type certificate data sheet, then flight test conditions, then final stages of final type certificate board approval process, then close out whatever the open items, then approval process in the sense of flight manual as well as type certificate data sheets. Once all these stages of levels have been completed, the final stage is the issue of type certificate as well as type certificate data sheet. It indicates the type certificate holder for eligible for production certificate in the type certificate data sheets. So hope you all understand this topic. So once again we will meet in the next topic. Until then, goodbye.